Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you so much for following us on Facebook. We'd love the opportunity to continue to grow the show in different vehicles and many opportunities as we can. This is a podcast, as most of you know, if you've been following the show for almost 8 years. So what we do is do the live feed on Facebook, and we encourage you to comment, ask questions, and some of those, most of the time, we won't be able to get to after the show, since it's only about 30 to 35 minutes. We try to stay on schedule and do these shows Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right around 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So if you would like to tune in, please do so. However, we'd love to have you download the podcast because, again, this is a podcast, so then after we do the show here, it becomes the audio for the podcast, which gets distributed all over the place. So you go to iTunes, just type in Real Estate Radio Live to get the podcast, or go to our website, RERL-1536-Rainy.com, to download the podcast there as well. For those who have been following the show, you know that the focus is education information. So for almost 8 years, we've worked really hard to have great guests like today, content, information to share with you, the consumer and the industry, to help you make wise decisions in and around your real estate. And that's pretty much the basic theory that we try to work on. We'll continue to do that. This show, the series we're kicking off for really the latter part of July and August, we've been promoting it, is the future of the real estate industry. So I'm working to get executives from the real estate industry. We have today, I'll introduce Rainy in just a second. And we're going to try to work through that the month of August to get as many executives on as we can and really talk about the industry, where it's going, the future of the industry, how is technology changing, what does it mean to the real estate agent, what does it mean to the consumer. So we're going to try to get the experts on here to help us navigate through that. So with that, let me invite my guest in, Rainy Hake. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. So welcome in, Rainy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Good to have you back.
Thank
For those
you.
that have been following the show, you know Rainy has been on a couple times, several times the last couple of years. We've done some events together, and it's always good to see and have you back on the show.
Pleasure's mine.
Yeah. So maybe we could first, to start with, why don't you, if you would, Rainy, maybe just give us a bit of your background and your current roles and responsibilities for Alain Pinel, and then we'll kind of work our way through the talking points here.
Sure, I'd love to. So as the Executive Vice President and COO for Alain Pinel, I'm in charge of marketing, technology, training, strategy, but essentially I oversee 1,400 agents and 33 offices across the entire Bay Area. I've been in the real estate industry for over 20 years now, so it's almost coming up a quarter of a century here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I've been in it, fell in it like most people, and haven't fallen out of it yet.
Yeah. Well, you guys have done a wonderful job branding. It's a great name, and you guys have a great reputation, so congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
In the Bay Area. And most of the offices in Northern California, is that correct, or all of them?
We're completely in Northern California.
Okay.
That's our focus, is the luxury marketplaces throughout the entire Bay Area, far south as Carmel, as far north as Tahoe.
Very good. Why don't we start by, maybe you could give us kind of an overview of the Bay Area real estate. Let's just call it, you know, in general, Silicon Valley, how it's going, what are the concerns? I mean, what are the things you're excited about, Silicon Valley, but then maybe what are the concerns with the housing market? If there is, maybe there is any. What's kind of your overview of the market today?
That's always the question du jour, isn't it?
I know, isn't it?
Well, you know, real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area is always good.
Yes.
And if I was in the real estate industry, I couldn't really say anything other than that. I would say, though, that with price appreciation having been at such high rates for such a long period of time, we are starting to see things taper out a bit.
Okay.
And you're not having as many multiple offers, as much high demand. I had someone ask me the other day, it seems like more properties on the market. And I said, I think they're just staying on the market a little bit longer than they used to. So it's not necessarily that inventory is up. It's that things are not churning as quickly as they were, which I think is signs of a healthier market than we've had in the last several years.
Yeah. Isn't it funny, too, the perception, like I think we were as low as like 600 homes in Santa Clara County, which was really low. And now we're, 1,600, 1,700? I know it's not an exact number, but still, historically, that's a low amount to be on the market, right, for an area like this?
It is, but with unrealistic expectations being set for so long, it's learned behavior that's hard to sort of readjust.
Yeah. So is that learned behavior, is that the buyers then all of a sudden become concerned, oh my gosh, it's been on the market for 2 weeks, no one's put an offer, or is it both sides are a little bit concerned, the sellers and the buyers?
Both sides. So yes, I think buyers look at it and they're thinking, what's wrong with the property? It's been on for more than 2 weeks. And the sellers are like, real estate agent, why are you not selling my home? It's been on the real estate market for more than 2 weeks now. So I think the expectations need to be readjusted on both sides.
Right. A dose of reality, because in theory, a home that doesn't get offers right away or is on the market for 2 weeks without getting interest, most people would say, that's okay, that's a normal market. Matter of fact, it's still a pretty good market, right?
It is.
Still a pretty good market. What are the biggest challenges you think in the real estate industry today? And I guess primarily, maybe you could speak to the Silicon Valley, because that's primarily where you guys are. And I don't know if you want to shed some light nationally too, or if you want to just stay focused on your area of expertise. But what are your thoughts about some of the challenges in the industry that face today in the Bay Area?
Well, I think that many of the challenges that we're facing in the Bay Area are national challenges. I know that you have a series coming up on the future of the real estate market, and a lot of the executives, I assume, who are coming on are going to be speaking about the competitive nature of the industry that's sort of coming about. And I think that's true locally, but also nationally and to some degree internationally. We are seeing not only competitiveness at the buyer and seller, but also at the brokerage level, which to me is more interesting nuance that is changing. So when I say competitive, yes, we were just talking about how there's multiple offers, and from a buyer-seller perspective, it's been a competitive real estate market for quite some time. From a brokerage perspective, I think the difference is that there's now competition amongst brokerages for agents in a way that is different than before.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that's sort of, for me, more of an evolving aspect to be looking at than just the general real estate market.
No, I'm glad you said that, and that's a really great observation. So as your take then, is it because the brokerages are getting more aggressive, they feel like they have to? Are there some new entries into the marketplace that have money to do so? What's driving that, do you think?
Both.
Okay.
So yes, there's two primary things. There's an introduction into the market of new business models that are driving that, and therefore there is a reaction from existing or traditional models. So if you look at the increase in new technology-based models, flat rate models, technology companies that are modeling themselves as traditional models but presenting themselves as technology models, they are all focused on three things. They're focused on driving home technology as a selling point, service as a selling point, but they're also driving down cost. And they're not just doing that on the real estate transactional side. They've created this new value that's outside of the transaction amongst the real estate professionals, where they'll now be coming up to a real estate agent and saying, oh, you do really great business. Here's a check for $1 million. Let us buy you. And real estate professionals didn't have value like that outside of the real estate industry until very recently. And that is being reflective in the way that recruiting and retention is happening at the brokerage model, but it's also driving commissions at the transactional level as well.
Wow. Okay. So you have new companies coming in that have money to write checks and literally buy the agents or their production, so to speak. How does the traditional models, and you guys are a traditional model, but again, you have a great brand, great name, a great reputation. So how do you combat that? Give us some ideas of what the conversations, the communications taking place within your company. And then from the agent side, and then how does that or does it affect the consumer side?
Of course. So it always comes down to value. And so the conversation that we're having, as I mentioned before, so service, check, we've got that. Technology, check, we've got that. So it's really the competing on price. Okay. So oftentimes our agents are being offered value much greater than their even production book of business from companies who are VC funded or we've talked before on the show about the Zillows and the Redfins of the world who, even though they're now public, still don't have to actually make a profit to operate. And that's very difficult for traditional brokerages who, in our case, we're family owned, we're locally run, and we are a business. And so even though we have wonderful professionals, we're focused on running a profitable business. So we cannot compete at the level of cost. And so we have to go back to our core values and focus on what is there above and beyond just the cost piece of it. So I always think that competition is good because it makes us reflect back and say, what is it that we do really well and how can we do more of that? So from our perspective, we're doubling down on, from the brokerage side, being in the right markets, and we're attracting the agents who attract the consumers that we're going after in a palatable way, because we're trying to create a high-touch service culture that people are proud to be a part of.
Yeah.
And so because we can't compete just on the dollars alone, it's really about attracting an ethos of productivity and professionalism and luxury.
Well said. So how do you go about, Rainy, how do you go about continuing that dialogue and communication with your agents as an ongoing, like take us through what that means for you to really make sure that you guys are doing the best job with your agents in communication and training and what the expectations are of the customers. Do you guys just stay closer? Do you always stay close? Do you have more meaningful meetings or conversations with big producing teams? Or has anything changed because of all this?
I think what's changed is it's really made us step back and say, okay, we can't rest on our laurels. To your point, we've been very productive and successful for more than a quarter of a century, and it'd be really easy for us to step back, and we've not really been directly affected by a lot of this for us to say, oh, we're above it. Yeah. But what it really has done is made us step back and say, you know, how can we demonstrate our appreciation to our agents more? For us, it's not about recruiting. It's about re-recruiting our existing agents. And so our focus is making sure that our agents feel significant, that they have a sense of certainty, that we're not going anywhere and that we're not going to be bought, and also that they feel a sense of esteem, that they belong to something greater than themselves and that they're proud to be associated with us. And so doubling down and making sure that we are focused on that in a proactive way is probably the biggest difference.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about technology. Earlier you mentioned a little bit, and I would agree with you. I have my own philosophy and thoughts about that too, because a lot of people will talk about, and companies will talk about technology and brag about it or say, oh my God, we have the best this. And you wonder when you really look under the hood sometimes if that's the case or if that's part of a marketing deal, right? So tell me, from the person that's in it every single day, you know, when a company talks about we have the best technology, first of all, are they talking about for the agents, for the benefit of the consumer? Talk about what you guys have, I guess, first. And then what would be your opinion of, is there anyone out there that is developing or has demonstrated some use of technology that would change the industry that you're aware of?
Lots of great questions in there. So
sorry, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, no, let me just go through them. So first and foremost, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there when it comes to real estate technology. So most brokerages purchase platform technology because, frankly, they're real estate companies. They're not technology companies, and it's the easiest thing to do. So what I mean by that, it's a suite of products and tools, property alerts, agent websites, CRM, CMA tools, so that they have the listing presentation materials that they need to go up there and do their job well. The biggest difference at Alain Pinel, so we've been down several paths. We started very early in technology back in 1993 with the first website. We had Steve Jobs come in and put computers, workstations on our desk. He developed real estate software before there was any. So we've been founded under this innovation strategy. We still do that today. We've then evolved and said, we're not a technology company. We should outsource this. We've partnered with the best of the best. And then we found, we have so many custom requirements. It's too hard to use a platform. So what we've started doing is partnering with the best of the best by category. So finding the company that does the best CMA or the best listing presentation materials, the best marketing materials, and we partner with them. And then what we do is we create the experience. And so we make sure that those things are integrated so that they allow the agents to collaborate with their customer, but also increase their productivity. And we're really working on making sure that that experience is seamless. That is not completely unique. I mean, when you look at some of the newer models like Compass, for instance, that's what they do very well. So they are a technology company who's actually operating like a traditional brokerage, but they come from the mindset of being a technology company.
Got it.
And they do a very good job of making it seamless and simple. But to your point about revolutionary technology, nobody's actually launched anything new. There's been a lot of articles in Inman and Risk Media recently calling out the fact that even the new technology that's being launched by some of these emerging technology companies, they're saying, well, I've been doing that for 15 years. I've been doing that for 10 years. It's not really new. It's the new packaging around it that is what's getting people to talk. But I think the key is who controls the conversation, and that's what impacts the consumers. Most of the technology that's being created is being created for real estate professionals, except for the technology model. So you have the Opendoors, for instance.
Yep.
Those are new models coming out who are actually saying, what technology does the consumer want? Now, that's a little bit different.
Different. No, this is a great topic. I love this talk because I am, in this industry, the residential financing for 20-plus years. We've dealt with CRMs, technology, and all these. And the one thing I do know, and I don't know that the statistics have changed, a lot of us have spent a lot of money on technology, and then the result typically is we get less than 10 or 15% of the people that use it.
Yes.
So that's a challenge that I think, if we're all being honest, that's part of it, right? So when these companies talk about we have the greatest technology ever, that could be true in their minds, but the next best question is, and you know just as well as I do, so how do you convince or talk to your agents and say, hey, we have this great stuff, this is the reason why we think you should use it, but how do you get them to do it? That's a tough one, isn't it?
That's the question. That's my job, right? That's why I have a job. This goes back to what I was mentioning with our new model, and part of it is our measurement of success. So it used to be that I was like, okay, unless we have more than 30 or 40% adoption on this tool, it's not effective. And you look at that 30 or 40%, that's not even half of your agents using it. And it really goes back to, do my agents see value in the things that we're doing? And I don't expect them to use all of everything. And if they have a preference to plug in, so for instance, if I have a particular CRM tool that I have integrated for them to use, if they want to use a third party that they like, my new strategy is to allow them to plug it into our system. And the value that I bring is that I make sure whatever tool they want seamlessly works in their business. And so it's about creating synergy for them rather than the value being in the tool that I provide or having hurt feelings because they didn't choose my tool over someone else.
Right, that's a good point. And to be fair, too, I study this stuff every day, literally, and for the benefit of my show and myself, and I know you do. You're in the middle of the industry. In your position, you need to and have to. But you made reference to like an Opendoor. When someone talks about a technology company, to me, yes, they're using some technology behind the scenes, but truly the Opendoor policy is just about a lot of money buying homes.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I'm sure there's some technology driving some of those decisions, but the reality is in certain markets that'll probably do okay, and I think there's enough business for a lot of different models, quite frankly, but that's the other thing that's kind of interesting to the consumer, and you talked about, it depends who's talking about giving their story, right? Because you could talk about a technology company, but when you really look under the hood and really understand what's there, sometimes it's not totally driven by technology. It's other things, right?
Exactly. And a lot of the new emerging markets or companies and models are like that. So let's take Opendoor as an example. When you look at what they're doing, it's not that they have revolutionized technology. It's that they're using technology to solve a problem.
Yes.
So the problem that's out there in the industry is that the real estate transaction is cumbersome. And that there needs to be an ease. And so what they've done is they've said, I'm going to create ease and convenience. And by the way, we're going to drive down the cost of that because we have a lightweight model, which is also attractive. And we're going to allow you to do that remotely using technology. So the technology itself isn't revolutionized the process, but it's the fact that they're using the technology in a different way that's revolutionizing the experience.
No, I would agree. So in general, as we chat a little bit about technology on and off, do you see anything out there right now or have an understanding of anything that's revolutionizing or changing the industry and the transactions go at this point?
No. There's a lot of people who are claiming certain things, but as I mentioned before, all the things that they're claiming are things that have already been done or tried or have been done in different ways. It's just new packaging. I do think that the real estate industry is changing and that technology is going to continue to help it evolve, but it's an evolution, not a revolution. I don't think that we're going to wake up in 2 months or 2 years and it's going to be completely different. The real estate agent's gone and it's all just automatic using technology to transact these multi-million-dollar assets.
No, I would agree. And again, I come back to this. I've studied this and I continue to do so. And the most recent stuff I see, and I study objective third party and everything else, 97% of people start their search online when it comes to real estate, lending, whatever, right? We all would know that. So what we're dealing with is a more educated, informed consumer. I think we all would agree,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
But then the statistics tell us that when a consumer decides to buy or sell a home, nearly 90% still want to use a realtor, a qualified realtor. So you have that. So whether that changes in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I know variations can. So then I'll take it a little further. And then when you continue to research and actually survey the consumers, they say a couple other things. Can't you guys have a little better use of technology? Consumers are looking at that because we're all used to using our phones for everything. It's not that simple, but they do say, hey, do you guys have a little bit of use of technology? Shouldn't you be doing that? And the other thing is price, right? I mean, they are concerned. Consumers are more concerned with pricing, how it's going to affect them when they sell their house, buy a house in general. And I think all that is by virtue of we have just more educated, informed consumer. And isn't when we have that, Rainy, aren't they more demanding? I mean, in general.
Certainly.
I mean, we're consumers, right? We do our research on different things. So.
I think that the more informed you are, the more opportunity you have because you're empowered with information to make certain demands.
Right.
But going back to what we were talking about before, where we were saying that the pressures that are on the industry are to do more technology. Mm-hmm. Yes, pricing is a piece of that, but I would argue that that's not so much coming from the consumer. I mean, everybody wants to get a good deal, and they'd be happy if they got a good deal. But they're looking for the highest possible price for their home. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily, before the conversation was introduced to them, demanding that. And so I know that there was a recent article in Risk Media where a CEO of a large company was accusing another company of basically introducing that conversation to the marketplace to create that as a saga because it benefits the low-cost models that way.
Okay.
But I think that most consumers just want to know that they're getting the highest possible price for their home, or if they're purchasing, that they're getting the best possible deal.
Yeah.
And so much of the conversation has become around commission cutting, and I don't believe that there was so much a question on the value that they were receiving from their agent previous until the conversation was introduced by our own industry and cannibalizing our own margins.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We ran past already a little bit. That's okay because this is a great conversation and we're sharing a lot of good information. So we're going to take a quick break. This is for the podcast, just a 1 quick minute. So if you're watching us via Facebook on the live stream, stick with us. And we're going to come back and finish up the show. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I'm sitting in studio with Rainy Hake. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. We'll be back with you to continue in just a minute.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Getting ready to buy or sell a home in 30, 60, or 90 days? Check out BundleSelect.com to find out how you could save 20% or more on your entire transaction, real estate, lending, and title. With BundleSelect.com, technology and a personal concierge are at your service to save you time and money. BundleSelect's hand-picked team of experts will compete for your business so you'll save thousands of dollars by bundling real estate, lending, and title services. BundleSelect.com gives you all the control, including using your own realtor. I'm Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, and I have been on the radio educating consumers for years. I'm here to tell you BundleSelect.com is the best way to save money on real estate. By bundling services, you could save tens of thousands of dollars. This savings model could save you money on your move, lower your interest rate, or cover your closing costs. Visit BundleSelect.com. That's BundleSelect.com.
The estimated minimum savings are based on a comparison with the national average. Individual results may vary, and the estimated savings are not guaranteed. Bundle Select Inc. is a licensed real estate broker. California Bureau of Real Estate Broker license number 004666902.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are watching the live feed on Facebook. We appreciate it very much. Again, we try to come to you every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right around 3 o'clock or so Pacific Standard Time. And the series we're doing is the future of the real estate industry. And Rainy Hake is kind enough to spend some time with us today. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. We hope to have more executives, and I think we have some on the books, but hopefully we get all of them over the next 3 to 4 weeks. It would be nice to get everyone's perspective, and that's what's nice about this show. I mean, I enjoy it, and I know the consumers, most people, want to be educated and informed, and to do that in 30, 35 minutes, I think it's a good thing for everybody. So what models, we talked a little bit about some of them. There's several new ones, and are there certain models out there that you and your executive team look at and you go, gosh, that could be a concern. How do we combat that? And are there models that you look at and you go, I can't even believe I'm seeing that, and we're not concerned about that? You don't need to name, but you know what I'm saying. Is there anything that concerns you? Any certain ones specifically that you might say, well, you know what, we might want to tighten up the ship or change models or do something different ourselves?
I'll talk maybe in terms of categories. So there's the flat fee models that are becoming more and more popular in terms of agents paying flat fees versus a percentage of their commission to the brokerage. There's also the tech models like the Opendoors that we were talking about. And then there's also the traditional models who are reacting to the new models that are in place. We track a lot of different things. There's those brokerages, and then there's the ancillary pieces of like the Zillows who are inside the industry, but not what I would consider to be a direct competitor. I know there's some people who disagree with me there. And then there's others like Redfin who they are technically a real estate brokerage, but I consider them more of like a technology platform company because of where each of those companies' value proposition lies. So that's kind of how I look at it. But we track and monitor all of it. A lot of conversation right now, to be honest, with most people is around companies like Compass or EXP and their business models inside the industry. For me, what I find a bit more interesting are like the Opendoor models because they are attacking a problem differently than we are.
I see.
And I come from a place of believing that there's plenty of room out there for everybody, and our value is different there with the way that we position ourselves. But if they, for instance, had the right partner with like a Citibank or something, their model would become all of a sudden scalable. So right now, a lot of those tech models are truncated and unable to scale, and so I'm not like worried about them, but I am intrigued to see if they ever are able to get the backing that they need to be able to accomplish the things they need in a market like ours, where you need a lot of bankroll to buy the kinds of property that we have. That would be very intriguing to me to see. But in general, I really just look at the things that we have and the value that we bring to the table. And I know that we target the luxury high-end market in Northern California very specifically. And I just try not to get distracted by the shiny objects, but we have to learn from them and make sure that we're staying on point and we continue to evolve based on the things that we learn from the various models that we look at and the problems that they solve really well for the consumer. Yeah,
well said. On the Opendoor thing, I think the other part that my assessment and observation is, I would agree. I think that's interesting. The only thing that and of course, they could change a model and make adjustments, but I'm not sure that given like that model would work so much in areas like this, because most people would not like the idea of someone writing a check without their home going on the market, right? I mean, that could work in Las Vegas, a $200,000 home, and there's a lot of things that consumers don't know, too, is Opendoor, and this is not a bad thing. It's just there's a lot of fix and flips going on in that, too. There's a model there that suggests a lot of the volume and units they show are homes being flipped, bought, sold, fixed, turned. So I guess the question is, would that model really work in an area where the average home is $1.5 million and up? And I mean, it would be hard to believe, wouldn't it?
Well, their biggest difficulty would be able to finance it. But then whether or not the model would resonate with consumers, I think that the idea is around convenience. And if you think about the aging population that we have, one of the biggest restrictions that we have in the Bay Area is the lack of inventory based on the fact that most people don't want to sell their real estate. And so as the owners continue to age, imagine we have people who are inheriting property and they don't maybe live in the Bay Area and they don't understand the dynamics of it. And it's easier for them, rather than to try to interview local real estate professionals and figure all of that, for them just to go online and flip the property and make the profit and walk away from it because it's mostly all cash for them and it doesn't make a difference. I actually know some real estate professionals who live here in the Bay Area who have property in other areas who have, even though they're real estate professionals and understand the value of a real estate agent, have used Opendoor to sell property of theirs because they just wanted it to be done and they wanted it to be easy, and they thought that it was worth any loss in value that they would get for the ease. And to the point I was trying to make earlier, for some consumers, that's what they value, and I think that's true no matter what marketplace you're in. Yeah,
and I think, isn't it true, the fact that I don't care what you do, no matter what model you have, it's not going to be perfect for everybody.
Correct, which I think is why there are so many variations of us out there, because everyone is so individual and we meet individual needs. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about consolidation or potential. I see it coming in our industry, the financing. For the last decade or so, a lot of companies were born out of refinance. And, Quicken Loans and Loan Depot and several others that go down the list, I mean, they were born and grew to large companies, primarily being refinance companies.
in a very particular market.
Yeah, right. And so refinance, I wouldn't say it's dried up, but typically now 20, maybe 20%, 15, 20% of the mortgage industry. There's might be pockets, there's more. So I see a lot of consolidation there too. Do you see consolidation in your industry, in the real estate industry, which particularly, again, you could probably speak to this location or even nationally if you want?
Certainly, and I think there's been several noteworthy consolidations of recent. There is a pressure in the marketplace, given all the competitiveness, to either evolve and figure out your value pretty quickly, to sell and move on, or to just stay stagnant and probably eventually become irrelevant. So I think most people are in the first two camps. So for us, obviously, we're one of the evolution. We get, I'm not kidding you, probably at least once a week approached by somebody offering to purchase our brokerage.
I'll bet.
So it's very, very proactive for people. Some very noteworthy local boutique brokerages have been purchased in the Bay Area of recent. One of the most notable ones, obviously, is Compass purchased Paragon, which is a very similar kind of company to Alain Pinel, an independent brokerage, organically grown in the Bay Area, being purchased by a newer model who's moving in. And the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to gain traction in a very attractive marketplace. But with that said, you're also seeing companies who are local here starting to try to expand outside. So should I move down to Southern California? Do I need to diversify and be in New York? Do I need to open an office in China to be relevant? And so you're seeing people expand and purchase and buy elsewhere from the Bay Area. So it's not just Bay Area companies selling, but it's Bay Area companies buying outside.
Interesting. Okay. So, you probably wouldn't tell me, or you don't have to tell me, but so are you guys buyers, sellers, on the fence, going to stick with what your plan is, or what are your thoughts?
I'm happy to tell you. Yeah, there's no secrets around our strategy. So we've always been an organic growth company. So we grow organically rather than purchasing an office and agents. We create an office typically around an amazing office manager, and we attract and inspire agents to want to be with us, and that's our continued vision. So we're going to be doubling down in the marketplaces that our brand resonates and with agents that it resonates. And then I don't think it's any secret that agents are the attraction for consumers. Consumers look at brands these days, particularly the brokerages, and they're just kind of all blurry to them. They don't necessarily know the difference. I mean, as a brander myself, I would hope that's different for Alain Pinel, but I also have a sense of reality. But it's the brand reputation that my individual agents, they're the personification of our brand. They're the ones who live our brand promise every day. And so my goal is to make sure that I'm attracting the right agents who believe in the same thing that we believe in, and that they attract the right consumers.
Yeah, very good. So if you could speak directly to the consumer on this. So as we're talking about this, as the consumer's listening to us right now, what does Rainy have to tell the consumer? Like, these are the things that you should be aware of and understand about the industry, and, why Alain Pinel, why we're still relevant, why we're still going to be, why we're not going to go away, and why our agents are a good choice for them.
That's a great question. So from our perspective, what people need to know is the value behind what it is that they're getting. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I feel really bad for the consumers, because if I weren't in the industry, it'd be hard for me to tell the difference. With tax laws changing and other things, I'm seeing ads out there where people are promising certain things to people, and I'm like, I know that that's not accurate, legal. And there's ethics involved, and so making sure that whomever they're going to work with, that they can really trust, and that they're focusing on working with somebody who's knowledgeable in their local market, because real estate still is very hyper-local. And the nuances between the form to use or what's going up down the street that you might not know about because it's not been talked about, but the whisper campaign of being on all those city council meetings. So the hyper-local experienced agent is still super valuable. The why Alain Pinel piece is that we partner with the best of the best. So we go into our markets and we say, who are those agents that have the highest level of professionalism but also understand concierge service? And so for us, it's about the high-touch service. We know that you have the ability to go online and purchase real estate if you want to now. We are there for people who want a custom personal experience. So if you want a convenience, our value proposition is we come in, we do it for you, but high-touch, high-value, rather than just set it and forget it out there in the cloud somewhere. Yeah, no, you're going to stick to that model. That's where you guys have flourished. Yes. And that's what you're known for. And you're saying that this is
for the consumer that sees that, realizes and sees that value, that's what we're going to continue to deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. Before we go, if someone wants to reach you or Alain Pinel or wants any information, where's the best place for them to do that?
Our website, apr.com, is you can reach me from there as well, and that's where you can get a hold of any of our great professionals anywhere in the Northern California.
Very good. Before we go to any new plans, anything coming new that you want to share with us, or you guys are going to continue doing what you do, or is there anything in the near future you're going to expand or do anything?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, when I say doubling down on things we do, it's not about doing exactly the same things or retweaking things. One of the things that we're doing is we're bringing back in all new customer service training for our staff. We're remodeling the offices. We have this new fun thing called the APR Kit, where we're redoing the experience you have when you walk into our office and make sure that the experience is something that you're like, wow, like you can really just have that jaw-dropping experience. We call them our little plus ones. And so there's just tons of energy internally on how we're going to accomplish those. From a marketing and a technology perspective as well, we're coming out with some really innovative new things and ways to collaborate with the consumer. So not just agent-facing technology, but consumer-facing technology that we're going to be releasing here in 2019. So a lot of fun and exciting things down the road.
Good. Well, thank you for your time. It's always great. It's always great getting the feedback and all the information. You're so knowledgeable at this, but thank you for sharing all this with us today. I appreciate
Truly
that.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, for more information, you could go to RERadiolive.com. Until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.